During a first lesson, I like to show a new student 5 basic chords. These are the 5 chords I show them. Those 5 chords have been used in a lot of songs, sometimes just a couple of them. I'm sure you've heard a bunch of songs that use those chords. So let's check them out. The 5 chords I'm going to show you are E, A, D, G, and C. A lot of times these are called the open chords or cowboy chords. So let's start off with E. You're going to play the lowest string, E, open. You're going to fret the 2nd fret on the 5th string, the A string, with your middle finger. The way I like to do it is put my ring finger on the 2nd fret of the D string or the 4th string. So you've got... So let's play those notes individually. So together, it would sound like this. Or if you use palm muting, which we'll get into a little bit later, it sounds like this. I like to start off showing my new students chords this way, just with 3 strings. These are called power chords. And they're just easier to play, and it gets you right into having a more rock kind of chord. So the next one we're going to do is an A power chord, which you're basically just going to move down that exact same shape down a string. So we're going to start with the A, which is the 5th fret. And then you're going to play the 2nd fret on the D string, which is the 4th string, and the 2nd fret on the G string. So that sounds like this. This is all together. And then with palm muting. Okay, so the 3rd chord is a D chord. It's basically the same shape that we just did with one little difference. You're going to start with the open D string, which is the 4th string. The 2nd fret, and this time let's use our 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. And then we're going to use our middle finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, the B string. So I'm going to play each one of them individually. And then all together. And then with muting. The 4th chord is a G chord. We're going to use our middle finger on the 3rd fret of the lowest string. And let's skip ahead for a second, and we're going to put our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. And then we're going to put our pinky on the top string, the E string. That's going to be on the 3rd fret as well. So thus far, we've got the low G and then that second fret on the second string, or excuse me, third fret on the second string, and then it's hard to see here, but the third fret on the E string, the top string. Now, you may be asking yourself at this point, what about the strings in between? Well, they're all going to be open, except for the A string, which is the fifth string here, and I want you to just put your first finger, your index finger, and basically rest it on top of that string. So you're going to kind of be muting it out a little bit without actually pressing down on the fret. So it's going to sound more like this. I'm just going to play this one. Just kind of gets more of a plinky kind of sound. And we just don't want that string in the chord. So this is what it's going to sound like together. And then you're probably not going to be playing that chord muted, so we'll just skip that. Okay, so the last chord that we're going to learn is a C chord, which is, we're going to start with the third fret of the A string, and the second fret, that's with your ring finger, by the way, and then the second fret of the D string, the fourth string, you're going to be using your middle finger for that. So you've got the next string is going to be an open string, the G string, so you don't have to finger that one. And then the second string, you're going to be using your first finger on. First your index finger on the first fret. And the top string, the E string, will be open. So let's play each one of those individually. So the first note. And then strummed as a chord. Again, most people don't mute that chord, so I'm not going to show you that. Let's take a look at some power chords. We already learned the A, E, and D power chords. Let's take a look at some power chords that are completely fretted and movable. Check this out. These chords have 3 notes, sometimes even just 2, the bottom 2. They sound great with distortion and even better through a loud amp. So let's check them out. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to play power chords on the E string, the A string, and the D string. That's these 3 strings. The E, the A, and the D. So let's start off with the E string. The first chord we're going to learn is A. 5th fret of the E string is an A. The 7th fret, you're going to be playing that, you're going to be playing that 5th fret with your index finger. Then you're going to be playing the 7th fret of the 5th string with your ring finger. And the 7th fret of the 4th string, which is the D string, with your pinky. So together, it'll sound like this. Now, I'll play all of the strings together as you would normally play the chord. That's playing the chord open, which is great for sustaining chords. And a little bit, in another lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to palm mute, which sounds more like this. The next string, the A string, you're going to use the exact same chord shape. So it'll be just like that, except you're starting on that A string 5th fret. So it'll be 5th fret on the A string with your index finger, 7th fret on the 4th string, the D string, with your ring finger, and the 7th fret on the G string with your pinky. So individually, those notes sound like this. All together. So that's a D chord with an open, with just open strumming. Here it is muted. Then the last string we're going to look at is the D string, or the 4th string. So it's gonna be the exact same shape except for the pinky, which is going to be 1 fret higher. So let's go through that. On the 4th string, D string, you're going to have your index finger on the 5th fret. On the 7th fret of the G string, the 3rd string, you're going to have your ring finger. And then on the 8th fret, that's where it's a little different, you're going to have your pinky on the 8th fret. So individually, those notes sound like this. And then together. And then palm muted. I want to show you something that is going to make power chords even simpler to you, and remembering the open chords. When you have an A chord, for example, and we're using that A power chord shape, just keep in mind that you can move that chord all over that low E string and retain that exact same shape. So for example, if you went down to the 3rd fret, you'd have a G chord. If you go to the 1st fret, you have an F chord. And the same principle applies to the different strings that we just learned. So on the A string, for example, you have the D chord. You can move that chord around to different spots. And on the D string, same principle applies. You can move that chord around to different places. Okay, one thing that I suggest to a lot of people who are just learning power chords is to take these power chords and play them in every position up the neck. So, for example, you could start on the 1st fret and just move it all the way up the neck. You could do that same kind of thing for the A and the D string. Now, one last thing I want to show you with these chords. We learned the open chords, E, A, and D. Let's take a look at how those are actually the same chords that I just showed you. For example, you take this A chord that we just learned. Let's just keep moving it down this way. Okay, you've come to the first fret, then what? Well, let's take these two fingers and continue to move them down and pretend there was a fret there. Obviously there's not, it's just the open string. But that forms the E chord. And the same principle applies on the D and the G string. If you go you get the A chord. And same thing here on the D string. It's a great way to remember those open chords and realize that they're all the same chord. One other thing that I want to suggest to you is that while it's great to play the chords up and down the neck to get used to playing them in every position, it's also good to jump from chord to chord in different spots. That gets you used to changing chords fast. So for example, if we played an A at the 5th fret and then a C at the 8th fret and then a G at the 3rd fret, you could jump around between those chords just to get used to changing chords. That's just one example. You can make up lots of your own. Palm muting is a great way to make a chord sound more aggressive and really more crunchy. So let's take an example and take a look at an E chord played open. Okay, that's great for sustain, but when you're looking for something, like I said, a little bit more aggressive or crunchy, you'd go to the palm muting, which is like this. This is a great sound for rock and metal, and a lot of other styles too. So the way we're going to achieve this is by putting what I call the heel of my palm, which is this area right here. You're going to lay that right in front of the bridge. The bridge is what holds the strings right here. You're going to put it right onto where the strings just start. So if you experiment with it, you'll start to get the perfect aggressive crunchy sound. So let's just take it from a fully open sound to a more crunchy sound. Okay, I was kind of going back and forth there between the open and the crunch. So this is really a technique that you're going to have to experiment with. I notice a lot of people when they're first getting started will tend to either press too hard down with that heel of their palm, or they won't press hard enough. So there's really a sweet spot in order to get that nice aggressive sound. And another thing I want to mention to you is something that I do is I keep the heel of my palm rested on the bridge pretty much at all times. And what that allows me to do is, with a very slight movement, I'm able to go from an open sound to a more crunchy palm muted sound. Sure, you can see on the video I'm just slightly moving my hand back and forth. It's a great technique, and it's a place where that's pretty much where my hand lives when I play guitar. This is alternate picking, or down-up picking. doing there is I'm hitting this low E string with a downstroke, which means I'm moving the pick toward the floor. And then again with an upstroke, which means I'm moving it toward the ceiling. So this is a downstroke, and then an upstroke toward the ceiling. And repeating. You want to try to maintain up and down picking whenever you can, because it's going to give you more speed. I want to show you two basic scales. These are great for rock and metal. The first one is the pentatonic scale. It sounds like this. The next one is the pentatonic minor blues scale, which is the exact same scale with one note difference. That sounds like this. Here's a little bit of soloing in pentatonic minor. Now here's a little soloing in pentatonic minor blues scale. Slightly different sounds, but both very useful. So let's check them out. This is the A pentatonic scale. We're going to start off on the 5th fret of the low E string. That's with your first finger. Then you're going to play the 8th fret with your pinky. Then you're going to play the 5th fret on the 5th string with your index finger. And the 7th fret with your ring finger. So thus far we've got then you're going to continue on and play the 5th fret of the 4th string with your index finger. And then the 7th fret of the 4th string with your ring finger. So thus far this is what we have. Okay, that's the whole scale, or one octave of it. And what that means is that you're just playing from A to the next A. So we have, that's another A. Okay, let's continue up the scale. You're going to start off with that 7th fret again on the D string or the 4th string. And then we're going to play the 5th fret on the G string, and then the 7th fret on the G string with your ring finger, and then we're going to play the 5th fret with our index finger on the B string, the 8th fret on the B string with our pinky, and the 1st fret with our index finger on the top string. So that sounds like this. And 2 octaves would be this. And back down.
The blues scale is simply the pentatonic scale with one note added. That note in this scale is the 6th fret on the A string or 5th string. So instead of just playing 5-7 on that A string, you'd play 5-6-7. So it would sound like this. And then continuing up, you would add the 8th fret on the 3rd string or G string. So that would sound like this. That's the blues note. And then back down. Now you may notice that I repeat the A when I get up to here. I go, and then I play it again. I'm doing that because I really want to stress getting the sound of the scale in your head. And there's no better way that I know to do it than to keep enforcing that or reinforcing that A in your head. This is the A pentatonic minor chord scale. So what I'm doing there is I'm playing the exact same notes that I played in the A pentatonic minor scale, which is this, except I'm playing each note as a chord. So for example, when I'm playing the 5th fret starting on that A, I'm playing it as a power chord. So we've got, and then the next note would be the 8th fret. So you're going to be playing, instead of playing with your pinky, you're going to be playing with your first finger so you can make this into a chord. You got a C power chord there. Then the next note in the A minor pentatonic scale is a D, which is at the 5th fret of the 5th string. So you're going to be playing the D chord there, D power chord. The next note will be an E, so you'll be playing an E power chord, again with your first finger. The next note is a G, so you're going to be playing that with your first finger, G power chord. And the last note is the octave, or A, again with your first finger. Now let's take that same scale and practice just playing the chords in different orders, just randomly. Something like that, just to get you used to changing chords quickly.
In this next section, we're going to get into lead playing. I'm going to show you some basic licks that are in A pentatonic minor and also some that are in the A blues scale. These are going to be simple licks that you can memorize and play over chord progressions that are in those keys. So, for example, the section on the chord scale, you could take chords out of that scale and have a friend play those chords, and you could solo with these basic licks. Or you could record them. Record a little basic chord progression and solo over it. So let's get started. This is lick number 1. So what I'm doing there is, first of all, the lick is straight out of the A minor pentatonic scale. I'm playing the first 6 notes of the scale to start off with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, using alternate picking. Then I'm skipping to the 3rd note in the scale, which is on the 5th fret of the A string, 5th string here. And I'm playing 6 notes into the scale from that. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to be repeating that same pattern up through the scale. So I'll skip to the 5th fret of the 4th string, the D string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm skipping to the 5th fret of the G string, the 3rd string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm actually only playing 5 there, and I'm ending up on the 5th fret of the high E string. So that last one again is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, quick. And then let me play it for you slow. The next lick is out of the A pentatonic minor scale. Sounds like this. So what I'm doing there is I'm playing the 7th fret of the D string. And then I'm going to the 5th fret of the D string and back to the 7th fret of the D string. So thus far we have. Then you're going to be playing the 5th fret of the 3rd string, which is the G string, and back to the 7th fret of the D string, the 4th string. So you've got, and then you'll end up by playing the 5th fret of the 4th string and back to the 7th fret of the 4th string. So slow sounds something like this. Now sped up with palm muting. This lick is out of the A pentatonic minor blues scale. Sounds like this. So what I'm doing there is I'm starting on the A, the 7th fret on the 4th string, and then I'm playing the 5th fret on the 4th string, and then I'm playing the 7th fret on the 5th string, the A string. So thus far we've got, and then I'm going back to the 5th fret of the 4th string. So thus far we've got, then you're going back again to the 7th fret of the A string, the 5th string, and you're going down the scale at this point. 6th fret, 5th fret, then on to the 8th fret of the low E string, and finally the 5th fret of the low E string. So slow sounds like this. And faster. This next lick is out of the A pentatonic minor blues scale. Sounds like this. Okay, so what I'm doing there is I'm starting off on the 5th fret of the high E string, 1st string. Then I'm playing the 5th fret of the B string, the 2nd string.
You get, and then I'm playing the 8th fret of the 3rd string, the G string, and I'm just going straight down that blues scale. I'm playing the 7th fret and then the 5th fret. So thus far we've got I'm sustaining that note, and then I'm ending on the 7th fret of the 4th string, the D string. So together it sounds like this. This lick is out of the A pentatonic minor scale. Sounds like this. Okay, so what I'm doing there is I'm starting off with my pinky, and I'm playing the 8th fret of the low E string. And then I'm going back to the 5th fret, which is the first note of that scale. And then I'm coming back again to the 8th fret. So we've got... So that's basically the only pattern that you really need to remember in this lick, is that you're just going to be taking that same pattern and moving it throughout the scale. So, for example, we just did the 8, 5, 8. You're going to move on to the next note in the scale, which is the 5th fret of the A string. And you're going to go from that 5th fret back to the 8th fret on the low E string and back to the 5th fret again. So thus far we've got, and from there on it continues the same way. You're going to go 7, 5, 7 on the A string, 5th fret on the 4th string, back to the 7th fret on the A string, back to the 5th fret on the 4th string, and continuing on. Ending on the 5th fret of the high E string. So slowly, sounds like this. Now with some palm muting and a little faster. This guitar is tuned to drop C sharp, which means the whole guitar is tuned to E flat, which means every string is tuned a half step down, and the low string is tuned down 1.5 steps to C sharp. Let me play through each string so that you can tune to me. That's your high E flat. That's your 2nd string. That's your 3rd string, which is G, now G flat. That's your 4th string, which is now C sharp. That's your 5th string, which is now A flat. And then the last string is tuned to C sharp. The really cool thing about playing in a drop tuning is that you can play power chords with one finger. For example, I'm just going to bar at the 5th fret these bottom 3 strings. So I've got together, sounds like this. And that's totally movable like any power chord. Same goes for the open strings. Now the fifth string and the fourth string, those chords remain the same. Just the bottom string because the tuning's different.
In this next section, I'm going to show you a couple of riffs from 2 songs that I wrote specifically for this DVD. Check them out.
This is song 1, riff 1. Okay, so that's the same riff repeated 4 times. So I'll show it to you once and then you'll repeat it 4 times. You're going to start off with the 3rd fret on the 5th string and 4th string. We're going to play that with one finger, your index finger, and we're playing it as a chord. So you've got this. You're going to be playing that open, no palm muting. So we're going from there to playing the low string palm muted. So and we're going to play it twice. So you've got. Then we're going to do the same. We're going to do the same chord again to start, but we're going to play 4 on the low string. So we've got then you're going to go back and do the same pattern again at the beginning. And then finally, you'll end up with that same beginning chord and a single chunk on the low string. So thus far we've got this. Now what you're going to add to that is you're going to play a chord on the bottom 3 strings on the 6th fret to the 5th fret and back to the 6th fret again. Like this. But muted. So together that sounds like this. And more up to speed. And here it is slow. This is song 1, riff 2. So what I'm doing here is I'm starting off with a D power chord on the 5th string. Then I'm hitting the bottom 3 strings open, just a single time, but with palm muting. And then I'm going back to that D chord. So thus far we've got this. Then I'm going to the 6th fret of the A string, 1 fret up. So thus far you've got this. And then I'm putting 3 chunks, or downstrokes, with palm muting on the low 3 open strings. So you've got, so together that sounds like this. And notice I'm sustaining that 6th fret power chord. Again, it's this. So, you're going to play that riff again, but the second time, instead of playing the 3, you're going to add this pattern, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's hear that in context. Notice on the 3rd pattern, I went back and repeated the 1st pattern. So again, I'll play the whole thing. Then, for the 4th time, I'm playing this, which is the 5th fret on the low 3 strings. I'm just playing a 1-finger chord with my first finger, and then I'm playing the open 3 bottom strings, I'm playing the 5th fret again. So thus far we've got, and then I'm playing the 6th fret with my middle finger on the bottom 3 strings. So you've got. So let's hear the entire sequence together slowly. Now up to speed. This is song 2, riff 1. This whole riff consists of 1-finger chords on the bottom 3 strings. You're going to start off with your middle finger on the 6th fret. So we've got, then we're going to play the bottom 3 strings open. Then we're playing the 3rd fret, bottom 3 strings. That's with the first finger. Then we're moving to the 5th fret with our first finger. And then the 6th fret with our middle finger. So thus far we've got this. Then you're going to play the 5th fret with your first finger, and back to the 3rd fret with your first finger. So thus far, here's what we have. That's the first half of the riff. The second half of the riff is this. So all I'm doing there is I'm playing the 6th fret with my middle finger again, open again, 3rd fret again with my first finger, 5th fret again with my first finger, and finally the 6th fret with my middle finger. So together, slow, it sounds like this. And again. And then more up to speed. This is Song 2, Riff 2. So what I'm doing here is I've got a constant stream of downstrokes on those bottom 3 strings. I'm starting off with the 6th fret, which is a 1-finger chord. So I'm starting off here, and then I'm going to, so that's open, non-palm muted, and then I'm playing 2 downstroke chunks on the low strings, and that's palm muted. So I've got, then I'm playing another 6th fret chord. So I've got, and then 4 chunks on the low strings. So together that sounds like this, slow. So you're repeating that. So if you watch my right hand, you'll notice that it's just in a constant, it's just constantly moving. So really it's just a matter of figuring out where to put those 6th fret coming in. So that's what you'll want to work on. Then the last part is this little set of notes, which is the 8th fret on the A string, the 9th fret on the D string or 4th string, then back to the 8th fret on the A string, and finally the 7th fret on the A string. So that little section slow sounds like this. So together, slow, it sounds like this. And then faster.
Well, that brings Volume 1 to a close. I hope you've learned a lot and will continue to practice. As you progress, look for other DVDs in this series, where we'll cover advanced rhythm playing and soloing, metal gear to get you that tone you've been looking for, writing songs, gigging, and much more. Until then, rock on.
Ah, man. What a day.
So what do you guys think of that math teacher earlier?
Oh, dude, don't even get me started, man.
Dude's a psycho, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, like, he keeps giving me detention, and I keep getting in trouble from this guy. I don't know what I'm doing.
Alright, well, this doesn't matter. Shh, doesn't matter. What do you guys want to do?
Play heavy metal guitar.
Dad's not gonna be home for another few hours. Maybe.
Do you dream of playing guitar like your heroes? Stop dreaming, because it's now your turn to rock. Heavy Metal Guitar Volume 1 is your introduction to the fast track of becoming a metal guitar master blazer. No boring old school lessons here, just the straight to the bone secrets you'll need to play and sound great. If you love metal and want to play badass metal riffs and scales, this comprehensive DVD will get you on track fast. Now you can play heavy metal guitar. We've all got favorite bands, be it Sabbath, Pantera, System of a Down, or Slayer. But now it's time for you to be the heavy metal guitar master of your own destiny. In this series of DVDs, you'll learn the basics all the way through to advanced playing. You can play heavy metal guitar like a master. bang your head. Play Heavy Metal Guitar Volume 1 is a registered trademark, all rights reserved. Disclaimer, this DVD will awaken the metal beast within. Parents beware.